Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast, where we talk about real estate investing for physicians. My name is Thomas, and I'm here with my business partner, Brett Riggins.
You had asked me who is going to be, like, who's the first person you reach out to, right? And from my experience rolling through the real estate acquisition side, it's always, how do you find your deals, right? How do you find your money? How do you find your contractors? Well, that's a whole discussion in itself. Who is the first person that you reach out to? What you really have to understand, and even before we talk about leverage, is what exactly are you looking for, right? What is it that you're trying to find? So as a physician, I know physicians that do direct mailers. They spend the time, maybe they've got a wife or a husband that doesn't work full time, and they purchase a list and they'll do direct mailers, and that's how they started their path. So that person's going to be looking for something different than maybe a physician who's just out of residency and just starting to get turned on to this journey. Then that person's looking for something else. So it's about what first, but no matter what you're looking for, leverage is going to be a huge piece. One of the things that pops into my mind all the time, I heard Alex Hormozi was the first one I heard say it, was a quote from Archimedes. If you give me a firm place to stand and a lever long enough, I can move the world.
Yeah.
That to me is stuck in my mind so much, because the team that we've built together here in the last 5-7 years or whatever is remarkable. And then you put yourself in rooms and masterminds, and the equity that you build in relationships is massive. So even on that journey, understanding the what first and the leverage piece is really important. So I would ask you, Thomas, what would be the first thing that in this conversation, if it's hypothetical, are we talking about first house? Are we talking about the 10th house? Are we talking about multifamily? What are we going to talk about when we're looking for the what?
Yeah, I think that's an important question. So let's just say you're a physician, or I'm a physician. I just got out of residency.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It took almost 10 years.
Nice.
It was worth it. So I'm just getting out of residency, and I know that I want to get into real estate, but I already know that my time, I'm very limited on my time, so I can't be going out. Maybe I can be. Maybe that's a limiting belief, but it's going to be difficult for me to go start learning real estate, to visit properties, to find good deals, all the work involved with investing in real estate myself.
Okay. So I hear you saying there's a time challenge for you, but I would also press in a little deeper then and tell me how you're going to purchase this. Say I can supply you the time. How are you going to purchase this piece of opportunity?
That's another great question. My income just jumped. But
your debt is still there.
Well, I still have a lot of debt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at leveraging somebody else's time. How about knowledge? Tell me a little bit about what you know about real estate.
Very little.
Okay. So leverage knowledge, leverage time, leverage money. And then we'll press in on experience of these other relationships, right? Leverage relationships, and now even technology. How can I use technology to help me find these other people, communicate with these other people? So, young man, we are talking about every piece of leverage here that we can get to going there.
I'm going to need all the leverage I can get.
Yes, wonderful. So first of all, I would say continue on your journey. Be careful of who you're listening to, making sure that you learn from the people that are doing it right. And it's also good to learn from the people that are doing it wrong. The first thing that you want to do is figure out what it is you're looking for. So, young man, just out of residency, what is it that you're looking for in real estate?
Well, I want a good return on my money, of course.
Return.
And I don't really know what I want, because I'm not sure what there is. I know that there's syndications, but I also know that by owning my own property, I get a lot more benefits, including tax benefits, which is going to help a lot with this new higher income that I'm starting to earn.
So if I talk with a lot of people, I love it. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I get the question asked a lot, like if you were me, if you were an 18-year-old, if you were a 22-year-old, 26-year-old, whatever, what would you tell yourself? And, looking back, I would absolutely stick on the buy and hold method. And that's what, once we got money, that's what we were doing, right? We started buying and holding, and that was my drive to get that. But it took me having to go on the active side to get that. So if you're just coming out of residency and maybe you don't have that, you don't have the time, you don't have necessarily the money yet, I would still go push you towards buy and hold, but I would look at maybe a different way of funding it. So just out of residency, you are looking for the knowledge to do this. I would push you towards buy and hold and point you towards the direction of even buying lists and doing direct mailers, leveraging technology so you don't have to be the one doing all of this stuff. You can leverage relationships to start getting those mailers out and getting your first deal in. You could work with wholesalers. You could do subject to existing financing. There are lots of creative ways that you could come up with the money and not necessarily have to have that mortgage right out of the pocket. So long story short, buy and hold is still the pocket.
Okay. So buy and hold. Now, you keep saying leverage relationships. What exactly do you mean by leverage relationships?
Absolutely. So in that regard, so we've got a real estate acquisition company. It's called Connect Home Buyers. And when we first looked at that company, you build your vision and your mission statement. For us, it was really important to connect with people. And in that company, it aligns with our personal views too, building relationships and creating opportunities on a pathway to financial freedom. Does that ring a bell, Thomas?
It does.
It is huge. It's so much. You build equity in relationships. And the thing about those relationships is you go in and you give in that relationship, you're going to get much more in return, right? So when we leverage relationships, it's just that. If I can find somebody to work with, then they are going to provide me many things in return. They're going to provide me with their experience, their knowledge, typically technology. If I have a client working with us and say, hey, Slack, right? So right away out of that, leveraging that relationship, now I'm starting to leverage technology as well too, because you're like, Slack, what's that? But just coming out of residency, you may already know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What would you say leveraging relationships?
Well, what comes to mind, and when I was first getting into real estate, because I didn't know anything about real estate until I met you, is that your most valuable team member, or at least one of the most valuable, it's arguable every team member is just as valuable, but I think that the agent is the first starting point where you want to go to begin your real estate investing journey. And I didn't know this, but a lot of real estate agents specialize working with investors. And so if you can find a real estate agent in your market or in a market that you want to invest in who works with a lot of investors, you can accelerate your path to finding and learning real estate, finding good deals through that agent, because that agent already knows the best areas to invest with. The agent probably already knows a lot of property management companies and contractors that you can immediately contact and start building your team from that one point of contact with your agent. So that's the first thing that comes to mind is finding a good agent. And there's a lot of agents, and there's a lot of bad agents, and there's a lot of good agents. There's not nearly as many good agents as there are bad agents. So I guess if you're just starting out and you're looking for that first agent, how would you approach that? Because I know you've worked with probably dozens of different agents in multiple different markets, and you found some agents that are top performers in different markets that we now currently work with still today. So what is your process if you're going to go find a new agent that you want to work with, investor-friendly agents?
It's a great question. And the first question should be, do you work with other agents? Another great question, I'm sorry.
Investors.
Do you work with other investors? Yeah. Another great question is, do you invest yourself? When that agent invests themselves, it's a whole different game, because now they're implementing what they're talking about. And they have the ability then to see what we called earlier today, attunement. They have the ability to see from your perspective as an investor, as an owner. So that's crucial. That's a great question to ask. You can ask what other investors they're working with, what specifically do they specialize in, right? And if we're saying, okay, single family residential, buy and hold, that's a great target, especially coming in, building your experience, cutting your teeth, right? So do they have experience in that? You're going to find that real estate agents are going to have experience in certain neighborhoods. They're going to have experience in certain types of real estate and experience with certain types of clients too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you are going to be asking these questions, but where's the best place to actually find these agents?
Awesome.
Just do a Google search on best real estate agent.
It'll pop up.
My market.
Has Google ever had just the easy button, right? That's a great question, Thomas. I would suggest going to a place. Let's see, Jim Rohn says success leaves clues.
Yep.
Right. So where would a successful real estate, investor-friendly real estate agent be? Right. If they're out looking for other people to work with, then they're going to be easier to find. One place I love is Bigger Pockets. That's a great place. So it's a forum, and you'll find these experienced agents, commenting on other people's posts, even posting stuff themselves. So Bigger Pockets is a great place. Make sure you've got an account on there, and you can even search for different types of information on there too. Great spot. Facebook groups. Be careful, be aware that when you do post or search for an agent directly, if you make a post, you're going to get just bombarded with everybody under the sun trying to get your attention. Remember, it's easy to drop a comment and move on, right? And you're looking for the people that are going to do more. So even if you were to do that and you get 100 comments on your post, it's going to be the one that follows up 2 or 3 days later, 4 or 5 days later, that's really going to follow through. It makes me think of the letters on my desk with you, Thomas, right? How
Yes.
long did it take? Because we met cold, like out of the blue, cold. And you had no experience in real estate. And at the time, main focus was connect home buyers. How long did it take you, and how many follow-ups did it take?
I don't know. It's probably at least 2 weeks minimum.
Yeah,
maybe longer. But yeah, that's a pretty funny story. When I met Brett, I knew I wanted to get into real estate, and he has already been in real estate game for, I don't know, 5 years or so. And I got his business card and called him, followed up with him, and I had to keep following up with him because he's a very busy guy. So just persistence, and eventually I came through and was able to meet, and here we are today, 2 years later since then, and our relationship's grown so much, but it came through that follow-up. And if I wouldn't have followed up, I don't know if you probably would have ever followed up with me.
No.
Yeah.
Because at that point you were just, out of the cold. You're just like everybody else trying to get my attention. Right? Yeah. But that's the difference. That when you have people following up with you, you're really going to filter through people on the second or third follow-up that reach out to you. And one of my favorite agents in the world, Rita Goforth, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, absolutely love working with Rita. She's a great person. And that came from a Facebook post that I made in an investor group. And then she followed up with me. I think she actually had 2 or 3 follow-ups before I can look back and saw that connection. So follow-up is huge. On the person that you're looking for is going to have that ability to follow up, because that's how they're going to produce in acquiring properties for you too. So Bigger Pockets, Facebook groups. I'm just kind of thinking, can you think of any more places where we find real estate agents?
Well, you can always go on Google, like we were joking about at the beginning, go on Google and search up agents in my area. A lot of those will be ads, but an ad doesn't necessarily mean it's someone who isn't good. If someone's investing into themselves to market them as a top agent, then they're probably producing and have been an agent for a while. Zillow, of course. Zillow is great because you can look at the reviews. If they have a bunch of reviews, they've probably been an agent for a while. So yeah, those are a few recommendations, and you can always ask your friends, colleagues, if you know other real estate investors, you can go and ask them as well. But what I would suggest is get a list of a few different agents and either have in-person or phone meetings with them and just go through some of those questions we were talking about. Like, do you work with investors? How long have you been an agent? Are you full-time or part-time? You definitely don't want to work with a part-time agent. You want someone who's full-time, has been in it for a while and really knows the game. And invest themselves. Yeah. So go out there, find some agents and interview those agents. And one thing that I always look for when I'm judging someone's character, how well they can perform, is not what they say, but based on their behavior. And that goes back to the follow-up thing.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's saying that they're the best agent, everyone's going to say they're the best agent. So you can't, just by what they're saying, you can't really know how well of an agent they are. The other thing is, you don't always have to work with the same agent forever. If you work with an agent and it turns out not to be the best of agents, there's plenty of agents. You can always find a new agent.
Mm-hmm. You will wean people out too. So if you are motivated and interested, your activity will likely wean the bad people out. And if you're working with a good real estate agent and your activity starts to wear them down, they're going to have a conversation with you and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. We're really not finding any value. They're going to look for a way so they can bring you more value. And the reality of it is you're providing too much work for them and they're not, you're not pulling the trigger on anything.
Yeah.
But on that Zillow thing you were saying, so a great spot too would be like, if you found your market, that's a whole different question too. It's a market. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But say, your market and your buy window, your buy box, what specifically you're looking for, go on to Zillow, find these properties. And even if the property's sold or pending or whatever, call that agent and say, hey, I'm looking at getting into real estate. I was just wondering if you could give me a couple minutes of your time. Go through the questions, but be humble. Learn from them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because if they've been investing in real estate themselves, you can start asking them questions about real estate investing. How did you find your first deal? What was that like? What is advice for someone like me who wants to start investing, buy and hold, single family in this market? So yeah, absolutely. You can learn a ton from meeting someone with more experience in investing than yourself.
Absolutely. Great question. I always think about too. You started asking me this a long time ago was, who do you know that I should know?
Yeah.
And in that world, after you have a conversation with somebody asking that, who do you know that I should know? And for them to put the pieces together from the conversation, say, hey, you were talking about this. Let me reach out to my lender. Let me reach out to my title company, right? Which is another great way of finding the people that you need to talk to, is reverse engineering.
Yeah.
Right. If you know the process ends up here, say at a property management company, great, because the property management company is going to be managing that stabilized investment property, mm-hmm. right? So they also will have that path back to the front of the project of who is that real estate agent or who is that wholesaler that put this together. So success leaves clues, reverse engineer, and you can start from that side of the project. Start calling property managers and say, hey, I'm looking for an investor-friendly real estate agent. Who should I call?
Yeah. No, that's a great
And if you don't know, who should I ask that question to?
Yes. Yeah. That's I honestly think that going straight to the property management company and asking that question is probably the best source and fastest way to find a good agent, because they are working with agents all the time. They know probably all the real estate investors. They know, all the different property management companies in their market, depending on how big the market is, of course. But I think that would probably be the best place if you're looking for the fastest.
And if you're looking to leverage time, save time, is finding that real estate agent who also has connections with the renovation process, repair process, right? Yeah. Because in order for you to find an opening and an opportunity, you're going to have to be off. Well, there's some markets where you can be on market, but it's typical that you're going to be off market deal. You're going to be a value add scenario. So you're going to have to make repairs. So your team needs to be able to absorb these pieces along the way. Yeah. So if that real estate agent also manages renovations, that's awesome. And has a connection with the property manager. And you just keep asking the questions. your insurance, who should I call for insurance? Who should I call for lending, right? Who should I call for property management?
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah. One call could lead to a dozen calls, and you can assemble your whole team in a matter of a couple of days. And before you know it, you find a deal and you have everybody in place and you just start executing.
So we'll go back to the hypothetical. Thomas just got out of residency, and you asked, right, how to leverage, what does leverage mean? Who should I talk to? And I was talking about what, and we talked about single family and ways of getting there, talking with the real estate agents, and how that works, the steps to get to it. But how does that all sum or wrap up? I mean, if you're just coming out of residency, is it possible to secure a single family residential if I still have debt, if I don't have time to do this?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can invest in real estate with no money. In fact, that's how I invested. My first property that I did was a small fix and flip, and I had zero money in because we borrowed money actually from you.
Yeah, I loaned from the the self-directed Roth IRA.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
That's exactly. Awesome. So
it is possible, and I started the same way. No money, no time, because my time was going to an hourly job to put food on the table. I had no money, had no time, but I did it. It's possible. So the time piece, getting back, you got it. If you want it, if you see the other side of this, if you know that building wealth is the answer, put in the time. Just like when you started your undergrad, when you started your residency, all of this stuff, you put in the time because you knew on that other side, there was a feeling, there was an emotion inside of you that there is return. You've got to have that same fight and passion on putting the time in on the front side, because what you put on the front side to build these relationships is amplified massively when it does return. Put in the time, the return will be there. Once you put in that time and build those relationships, you just imagine yourself 1 year down the road where now you've got this great relationship with a real estate agent, property management team, and they're just out of the blue, you get a call. Hey, I've got a client that needs to get rid of this house over on 1234 Main Street. Is you in a position to pick one up right now? I mean, just imagine getting that call. And it all started from putting the time in up front.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I forget how effective you can be just by picking up the phone and asking good questions.
Mm-hmm.
You start asking good questions, you start picking up the phone, it can lead to relationships and opportunities that you wouldn't think would be possible in the matter of time it took you to get it done.
I remember it was a property in, I think, Mississippi, and we had recently launched nationwide wholesaling stuff. And you're always so clear and transparent and candid in your approach, Thomas, that you couldn't understand why we were having difficulty moving these properties. Like, we just get on the phone, call. You wholesale that property by getting on the phone, going to Zillow, calling real estate agents off of Zillow, found a buyer for that property. And that particular one, I think, was around $30,000 assignment fee.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that now. I completely forgot about that. That's pretty funny. And it was probably less than 10 agents that I called.
Yeah.
I don't remember what exactly I was saying to them. I believe it was something along the lines of, hey, we have this property and, we're just looking for a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anybody who would be interested? It's an off-market property, and we're looking to get it off our table as soon as possible.
Very interesting. Now, the rest of that journey from that phone call to the closing table, was a lot more work. Oh my goodness. That one was fascinating.
Yeah.
So
not everything runs smoothly, but
yeah. Very cool. Well, I think there's a lot of information there, and it goes so deep into like each avenue that you talk about. You could continue down and talk more about, but I think the end of it there, just picking up the phone and asking good questions.
Yeah.
And we actually started off the conversation by saying the smartest person or the richest person in the room is not often the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right? They just ask the best questions.
Exactly.
And I think if this is the wrap of this
episode,
then be the one with the best questions, right? How do you leverage? Be the one with the best questions. Don't be afraid to get on the phone and ask questions. And if that person doesn't have the answers, maybe you don't have the right questions, or maybe you're talking to the wrong person, right? As I said the other day, was if you don't like the answer, ask a different question. Just coming back to, be the person in the room with the best questions.
Yeah.
Cool. What's a wrap for Real Estate Mogul MD?
Yes.
Talking
episode
about
1.
Tommy G coming out of residency here, and what do I need to do to get me some houses?
Absolutely.
Right on.